to share today, and I'm so excited. Not gonna do a lot of chit chat today, but just a quick recipe of pho, but not the typical one that you get in the traditional one per se, because I don't have all the ingredients to make this pho broth. So I made it with whatever I have in my cabinets. Once again, I'm being adventurous here, and I just finished making it today, and I think it tastes pretty good. So I'm gonna share it with you how you can use whatever ingredients you have in the house to make a delicious pho broth. So here's what I used to make the broth: 25 cups of water. I have some leftover chicken breast from the other day. I bought the whole roasted chicken, and we got some breast left that I don't like to eat the breast, so I was thinking, what should I make? Well, of course, pho. The breast has a lot of flavor, but you know, it might be dry, but when you make into soup, it's actually very good. So don't throw away your chicken breast. You can make the soup out of it, but in this recipe I made sure that the chicken breast is not too salty, otherwise it's gonna make the broth very salty with the spices we put in. All right, make sure it's not too salty. I also used 2 pounds of beef bone marrows, 2 carrots. Now for the spice, like I said, I use whatever I have in the cabinet. Traditionally, it's good to have the star anise for this broth, but I don't have it, so I replaced that with cinnamon sticks. And supposedly you should have onion, but I don't have onion, so I use scallions to replace that. Not even garlic, I don't have garlic. But if you have garlics and onion, make sure you put them in, because they're perfect with the broth. And again, I'm cooking it based on what I have in my cabinets. So for the spices, I used 1 cinnamon stick, 1 piece of ginger, 1 piece of galangal, 2 pieces of shallots, and I roast them in low heat. Make sure they all roasted, because you want the aroma, the smell coming out. This is what makes the broth so different from any other soup, is the good smell, the good aroma. So make sure you roast it slowly. And then cut them up too, making sure that they're smaller pieces, so then the flavor and the smell coming out when you put into the broth. Okay, so now let's get into the broth itself. The 25 cups of water, bring it to boil before you put all the spices and the chicken breast and the bone marrows in. Cook them all in high heat for 10 minutes, and then lower the heat down to about 3 or 4 out of 10, making sure it's lower heat, not medium high, medium or anything. Cook it for an hour. An hour later, I increased the heat back to high. I added my carrots, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. Cook it in high heat for 10 minutes, and then I lowered the heat down to another hour. Simmer it for another hour. And that's it for day 1. I cooked for like, in total, probably 2.5 hours, really. And I open the lid and leave it in room temperature overnight. And today is day 2. This is where I'm gonna simmer it again to make sure my broth comes out. The reason that I want to leave the broth overnight is that I want to make sure that all the oil comes up, and then I want to take away all those oil on the top. And there's a lot of oil, and you want your broth to be as clean as possible. And with bone marrows, it's hard because it's all fat right there. So I took out about 2 cups of fat on top, and then I boil it again, lower the heat down very low, like 3 out of 9, and I cooked it for just another hour. Alright, so an hour later, again, yesterday plus today, that's like over 3 hours of cooking, right? So my broth, I know that it's so good, even though I don't have all the beef bone or anything like that, but the bone marrow and the chicken breast should be good enough for the flavor. And 3 hours of cooking, that's perfect. And I then added my meatballs, and if you haven't, check it out, the link right in the description box below. I made beef ball from scratch last week, so check it out. It's delicious, homemade, not too salty. And then I lowered the heat down. At this time you can actually turn off the heat. You don't want to continue cooking it really, but I keep it low just because I'm gonna eat soon and I want to keep my broth very hot, very warm. So here's the rice noodle that I used to make this. It's simply rice stick, and I think it's time to use it. I bought this a long time ago, and I will have to use it now. In order for me to cook this, I have to boil the water, which I put on the stove just now. The water has to come up, and then I'll show you how I cook the rice noodle right in the hot water. But in addition to the rice noodle, I also use fresh shrimps and beef, sliced beef. I also have some cilantro, so I'm gonna put it for the aroma, for the garnish on top as well. So again, this is not a complete, I will say it again, this is not a true recipe. So once again, this is not a true recipe that you find in the restaurant. I cook it based on whatever I have in the house, and you can do the same. Always be adventurous and try out different spices in your cabinet. So once the water boils, just add the dry noodle in there. It is best if you soak the noodle in cold water first, regular water, for about a few minutes, but I did not. This is fine too. Just put it directly into the hot water because it's gonna cook once it's soft. So this is about a minute later. It's soft now. Transfer it into the bowl. So that is my noodle. So now it's time to cook the shrimp. Put however much you like. I'm gonna put about 4. And then transfer it into the bowl. As you could see, I sliced the beef very thin, so I don't have to cook it in the hot water. This is gonna be cooked with soup. My meatball, homemade meatball. I'm gonna transfer it right in there. As you could see, the beef is almost cooked with the broth because the broth is still hot. I have to say, it's better than I thought with all the crazy ingredients I put in there. Before I put my spicy sauce and hoisin sauce that I usually put in pho, I want to give it a taste first with the noodle just to see if it's too salty with the amount of ingredients I told you. Okay. Not too salty. Yeah, it's not too salty for me. It's fine, but to me, I need more sweet taste to it, sweetness. And this is why I always use hoisin sauce in my pho. You don't have to overdo with the soup itself. You know, keep it as light as possible. And with these ingredients, it really varies depending on the fish sauce you have or the chicken you bought, if it's too salty or not. So if you want to try this out, start with less amount than I put in, and then if you need more, you add more, but make sure the broth is light, it's not too salty. All right, enough with talking. What I do is I like to put hoisin sauce right in my bowl, which some people hate it, and also spicy sauce, which is sriracha. All right, Homemade, guys, all homemade. During pandemic like this, nothing like being adventurous with your food. Okay, I'm gonna try it with the sauce now. Oh, perfect. I love hoisin sauce. It goes so well with pho. I don't know how I eat pho without it. The beef, as you could see, it was red before and now it's gray. It's cooked with the broth. You never want to cook your beef too long. Now how about the shrimp? I only cook for about 30 seconds. Oh, the broth is so good. I mean, if you drink this soup by itself, it's light, it's very light, not enough flavor, but when you add hoisin sauce to it, oh, it's exactly what I've been missing. I've been missing this in the past 3-4 months that I could not go out due to the pandemic. The bone marrow though, it's so much flavor. Oh, the fact that I have nothing beside the bone marrows and chicken breast, I think these came out very, very good. So follow my recipe if you get a chance. Oh, did I try this yet? I did not. One more, hold on. I know I showed this to you last week already, but I want to see how it tastes like with the broth. My homemade beef ball. Perfect. And now, I really need to say thank you. Thank you for watching. Try it out when you get a chance and let me know in the comments box below what you think. Alright, I will see you in the next video.